I always give God a tenth of what I have. And I truly believe He's blessed me because I've done that. Because I never thought I'd recoup from the tragedy, and I was able to retire 2 months ago when I didn't think that was even in my future. When I was a little girl, and Daddy used to give us our allowance every Sunday morning, he always made sure when he gave me my 50-cent allowance that he gave me at least a nickel in change, and then he always said, as he put it down, that nickel is for Jesus. So I had a very good example to follow. Then when I was in my early 20s, my grandfather, my mother's father, took me aside one day and said, "Sandra, I want to give you some advice. This is the only advice I can ever remember his giving me." And he said, "I want you to remember that every dollar you make, out of that dollar you should give a tithe of 10% and you should save 10%. If you do it out of the first dollar you ever make, you'll never miss it and you'll never want." I have on the notation at the bottom of my check, first fruits offering. And so I always write my check that comes to the church first. As I walked down the journey with Christ, about 20 years ago, it had gotten to the point where I didn't even want to write that check for the church. I did it most of the time, but I didn't want to. I hated writing that check. There was no joy in my giving, and that bothered me. About that time, our pastor did a series on giving. Imagine that. And then he taught us that everything we have belongs to God, and he named things like your house, your furniture, the groceries in your pantry, and I'd never thought about that before. It wasn't terribly new, but it had just not been something I'd taken into my life. And I realized that everything I had belonged to him, and that we should give gratefully and cheerfully. After that, it wasn't really a choice. It was fun to give. The scripture that has really been true in my heart is where it says in Proverbs 22 that God blesses a generous heart. I've found not only does he bless a generous heart, but I think he blesses the giver more than he blesses those you give to. About 7 years ago, there was a great tragedy in my life, and I lost more than half of what I had saved. And I never thought I'd be able to recoup. But God has tremendously blessed me, and it seems that it's very true. I don't think it's scriptural, but the saying is true that you can't outgive the Lord, because it seems that the more that I have given to him, the more he has blessed me.